Hi, welcome to the James Gunn podcast. My name's James Gunn, James Gunn. You see, Superman sees the goodness in everybody, but I see the truth.
If anyone is to be described as incapable of reading the room, it is
James Gunn.
The way he sees things is very, very different than most men think. That most men want to be the character, but
James Gunn
wants the character to be him. I think it's safe to say that all of us diehard DC Comics fans were at the very least optimistic when James Gunn was first announced as DCEO co-chairman and co-CEO of DC Studios. Personally, I was a little bit more than optimistic. I was thinking that we could see more likable characters, better stories, comic booky nerdy stuff finally meeting the big screen in a very relevant, respectful, but most likely quirky outcome. When the first trailer launched with the half-assed, dumbed-down version of the original John Williams score, I began to be a little skeptical. When I finally saw the movie, I was happy to say that upon the first watch, it was very fun. Seeing all the characters going in and out of a pocket universe, fighting kaijus and sitting next to Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, and Mr. Fantastic were all things that happen in the Superman comics, but not in the movies, or at least not to this level of nerdiness. When I purchased a digital copy, I quickly realized that it is not a rewatchable movie. The second viewing allowed me to free up my criticisms for all the other things that were wrong with it. The music was terrible. Terrible. Absolutely horrible. James Gunn thinks that he is righteous in his endeavor to capture the entire fandom of DC Comics and make them think that Superman could be punk rock, just like James Gunn.
James
Gunn, the way he sees things is very, very different than most men think. That most men want to be the character, but James Gunn wants the character to be him. And that's the difference there, is that most people say, yeah, I want to be Batman. I want to be Superman. James Gunn says Superman is me. The director who considers himself, style, and edgelordness to be more important than simply honoring a beloved character who represents something that he is literally incapable of connecting with. We all know that he figured out his connection, discovered the Superman. His connection with Superman was the dog. And we all know that James Gunn's high and mighty obsession with being super cool loses its charm when you sacrifice all the possibilities of honor, respect, truth, justice, and the American way. The American way enabled James Gunn to create his 70 million. He has already achieved the American dream, so he can just as easily dispose of it in his propaganda. His head has become so large he can't be bothered to actually put America in the poster. Instead, he has to put whatever. And of course, this is a direct response to the fans who voiced their opinion about the toy that was published last year that had the human way instead of the American way. And of course, he can continue to insult the fans as we scream from our phones and our keyboards, because he is protected by his elite buddies who share his bubble-enclosed political opinions. His lack of self-awareness, or quite possibly deliberate troll to the DC fans, will only cost him and only help to shorten his time in the position of power. He is sitting comfortably in his own farts and will never look beyond his own hubris, because his farts recharge his self-absorption and narcissism. He will never see it this way because, like I said before, he is absolutely obsessed with being perceived as cool. Yes, we love cool characters, but being cool isn't always not giving a shit. I got into a debate with a hipster about this a few years back, and after hearing him speak for a while, noticed that his morals were in the toilet, or at least it sure seemed that way. When a director steps outside of their own skin and can see what should happen and not saying, how can we make this more punk rock, that is a good director. When they can step out of themselves and what's best for the story. But of course, he doesn't do that. When you are hell-bent on insulting fans while producing pure garbage, your days are officially numbered. And if the new Warner Brother owners, whoever they end up being, have any brains at all, they would fire James Gunn immediately and stop this madness. I tried in earnest to watch the Gunn Superman last night, but just couldn't stand it. In a cinema, I would have suffered through it, and maybe it would have eventually won me over. But at home, I threw the merciful kill switch. I then washed my eyes with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It all comes down to, if you think you're just going to get the aesthetics right, that's a stat. That's one step. But then if you just portray the heroes as unlikable characters, and this headline nailed it. Gun Superman feels like AI generated hope. AI generated hope, exactly, with zero soul, painfully generic, aggressively mid. This new Supergirl story is going to be built off of a Tom King story. So James Gunn has publicly discussed adapting and drawing inspiration from Tom King's acclaimed 2021 series. The main complaints about Tom King's limited series is that it's a mischaracterization of Supergirl. Many fans argue that King depicts Kara as overly dark, angry, depressed, alcoholic, and vengeful. Traits more akin to a grittier hero like Jessica Jones or a traumatized vigilante than an optimistic, hopeful, and inspirational figure Supergirl is classically known for. Critics feel that this sucks the joy out of the character and replaces her core inspiration with tawdry drama, making her feel unrecognizable or regressive. Heavy-handed darkness and misery. King's signature focus on pain, suffering, and moral ambiguity. Themes of revenge, loss, and questionable justice clashed with Supergirl's hopeful legacy. Some reviews question the point of the story, especially the ending, which left characters unchanged or raised unresolved ethical questions. Of course, he wrote Batman marrying Catwoman, but Catwoman left him at the altar. All of this is just